Love it. Okay, we are recording and we are on Facebook Live, and I was super excited to be back today. I have so many things that I want to share. So this morning I was like, man, I got to plan these out and get them in a good order. But first, let's go back to our consistency of what is one thing you guys are grateful for today. So type it in the chat. And if you're on Facebook, you can type it in the comments on Facebook as well. And I'm grateful to be back in Kentucky today. I took a month off, not really off, but not here with the wedding, and it was great to take a month off, and I'm grateful for the time that I was able to have and all the people that helped so that I could actually do that. But it feels good to be back, and it's beautiful here, and the grass is green and the skies are blue, and the water is off at my house, but that's a whole nother story. So other than not having hot water this morning, or water in general, it's good to be back. So grateful for that. And yes, Angie, that's so awesome. Love it. Yes, so happy to be back on Wednesday Morning Mindset. Monica, your daughter is happy and thriving. So awesome. So thank you guys for giving me a month off. If you want to be entertained, I'm going to put in the chat, don't watch it now if you haven't already watched it, but our vlog from the wedding, it was hilarious. Actually, shoot, Heather, it's not letting me copy and paste it for some reason.
I'll try to do it.
Okay, it's on YouTube. Thank you. But we had an amazing weekend and just everything leading up to it, and it was so great. So thank you guys for everybody that reached out to us, and thank you, Milton, and that gave us the time. It was awesome. It was crazy to I mean, I still worked, but to just be able to actually take time. I don't think I've ever done that ever in my entire life. So it was nice to be able to do that. So I want to share with you, oh, thanks, Heather. I want to share with you guys something that I recently heard on a John Maxwell leadership podcast, and it's 10 tools for gaining a new perspective. And I think sometimes it's great for us to just think about having a new perspective on our work, on our lives, on our mindsets, on any of those things. And it was good. It was eye-opening for me, and it was some great reminders. You can go back and listen to it, but I'm going to give you the 10. I love Michelle's dog, like right front and center. That's what I can see right now. So cute. So number one, oh wait, let me back up. He said, getting a new perspective means forcing others to think in new ways. And sometimes I think, actually, I don't think I know. I heard Gary Keller say this at Mega Camp too. If you're feeling burnt out, or if you've ever felt burnt out, it just means that you need a new big, hairy, audacious goal, or you need a new vision, or you need something new to focus on. And a lot of times in order to get that, we have to have a new perspective, because our mindset is already it's already in the old place, and we have to shift it to be into a new perspective. So the 10 tools, number one is, John says, ask yourself the Peter Drucker questions. And I've read these in a Peter Drucker book, and I don't remember which one of you guys may know. But it's, what is my mission? And then this is for most of you I know are in the workforce. So who is my customer? What is my customer value? What is my plan? And what are my results? What am I looking for at the end? And a lot of times when you're shifting your perspective, just asking yourself these questions and jotting down that, like, the first thing that comes to your mind, is a really good way to shift your perspective, because sometimes we get stuck in the weeds. And he talks about this. Or for those of you familiar with the 80-20, you're stuck in the 80 for over and over and over, and you're stuck in all the weeds. And so you forget even what your mission is, or you forget who it is that is your customer that you are serving. You may forget what your plan is. And a lot of times we are so focused on the day-to-day that we might even lose track of what the end result is, or why we're doing it to begin with. And so asking yourself those questions is a really great way to shift your perspective. Number two is to examine and clarify what you offer. And so John explains this as, what doesn't change in your life? And so John's, and because I've been able to just learn from him, has been the same for me. What doesn't change for John is adding value to people. So every day, as long as he's adding value to people, that is the constant. That's clarifying for him, because it's what he offers. He wakes up every day to add value. And he said, your values should not change, but how you communicate them can change. So you might need to re-examine what are your values and what doesn't change in your life. What is it that every day you want to offer or you do offer, and examine and clarify that so that you can shift your perspective. And then remember what he means by your values should not change, but how you communicate them can change, means that over time, like you have to, what does he always say? Share your vision like ad nauseum. Like everybody should know it so much that it's like, because you just say it so many times you want to puke, but it's because that's how people have to be communicated with. And so you should communicate your values over and over. Number 3, and I love this one, offer who you are, not what you do. John said the greatest gift one human can give another is to offer themselves. And that really comes from focusing on who you are, not what you do. He says who you are spills over into what we do. It's about the internal over the external. And John gives this example of when he was 51 years old, he was working like crazy. He was having just so many things going on in his life and in his business world. And he said he just was nonstop, and he ended up having a heart attack at 51, which is like nuts. I actually think about when I was listening to that, and I re-listened to it last night, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, golly, that's Adam in 6 years. Like, that's young. So he said he was 51 and he had a heart attack. And he said one of his really, really good friends and someone who worked with him came to him and said, John, the only way that you're going to get better is if you just stop and slow down. And he said, so for the next 6 months, I'm going to take over your emails and and any requests that you have, and I'm going to do all of them. I'm either going to say no and reschedule them for 6 months from now, or I'll just do them and take them over. And John said in that moment, he realized that his friend offered a gift to him, but it was himself. He offered himself. And he said by taking over for 6 months, that was him saying, hey, like, I'm giving you a piece of me, and it was a great gift. And so John said, just always remember that sometimes it's offering just who you are, not what you do, that can make a big impact. And also it can shift not only your perspective, but someone else's too. Number 4 is a huge one. Recertify yourself every year. And he talks about, and even some of us have to have, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the word. Like, what is it? Our 6 hours of, continuing education. we have to recertify ourselves, and doctors have to redo their certifications and all those types of things. But he says that just in your mindset and in your perspective, you should recertify yourself in that too. Change is always necessary. We cannot assume just because something works today that it's going to continue to work tomorrow. So we must either evolve or we're stagnant, right? If you're not evolving, then you're just staying stagnant all the time. And he said that a lot of that, and most of you are, and if you're on this, you're watching, then you definitely are, but you have to stay constantly in a learning based mode. You have to want to be getting better. You have to want to engage your mind, and you have to want to grow and to be able to change. He said the ordinary person actually doesn't even make or take action until something is broken. And usually that's too late. Like you're past the point at that. So learn how to recertify yourself and work on yourself to keep perspective and continue to grow. And in order to do that, number 5 is to just have commit to a development plan. And some of you may have seen this. We've done these. We called them growth plans in the past. I haven't seen one in a while. I don't know if any of you remember one, or Troy, if you've ever had one. I'm just trying to think of the last time I had one, but we used to fill out like the list of the things that we wanted to attend or go to. Do you know what I'm talking about? Over the next 12 months. And that was your growth plan. And it was like, okay, these are the things that I know I need to get to in order to grow. And so a development plan is pretty similar to that. It might even just not be just classes to attend or trainings or seminars, but things that you actually need to commit to in order to develop. And that actually goes to number 6, which is focus on personal disciplines. And John says that while this is a very strong tool for gaining new perspective, it's the biggest challenge for most people. And I actually was thinking this morning, and I put the question in there, what disciplines do you need to put back into place? Because I actually told Adam yesterday, I said, I love you and I'm sad to leave Charleston, and I am kind of glad to get back to Kentucky and have like a minute to myself, because I can get back in my routines, because I've gotten off of some of my routines, and I can just tell such a difference in my disciplines. Like, I'm not waking up as early as I was, and I'm not walking every morning like I was, and just little things like that. So in order to gain new perspective, I'd love to ask for you guys to ask yourself the question, what disciplines do you actually need to put back into place? Because that can immediately shift your perspective, and you'll probably automatically think of one or two, like right off the top of your head, that that's a discipline that maybe you've had or you've wanted to work on, but you've just gotten off track with it. But those are things that you can put onto your development plans as well. Number 7, remember that learners beat the learned. And I love this. He said, learners inherit the earth. The greatest gift one human being can give another is to offer themselves, which we kind of talked about that a little bit, but it comes from focusing on who you are, not what you do. And you constantly have to be learning. So just remember that learners beat the learned. And so he talks a lot about professors in this, and he wishes that he said, don't you wish you could go back to your professors and say, I wish I would have learned more. I wish I would have really listened to you, or I wish I would have paid more attention, because he said a lot of times as even children or young adults, we don't really understand how important learning is. And then when you're an adult, you're like, man, I want to soak it all up and learn everything. So remembering that. Number 8 is be content to be a work in progress. And John talks about this all the time. He says, I'm not where I was yesterday, and I'm not where I'm going to be tomorrow. I'm in progress. And he said, we have to be okay with that. And a lot of us, that's a struggle. He said that a very healthy perspective is knowing that you're a work in progress. So when you're gaining a new perspective, you just need to remember that. He shared on the podcast, this blew my mind, that most of his old books, John has rewritten and revised like almost 80% of them, because he wants them to be progressive. He wants to be innovating. He wants to continually be improving on them. And he said he took his book, which almost everybody's heard of, the 21 Irrefutable Laws. I think I have it somewhere. And for those of you that asked for a book, that have gotten the book, yay. And if you haven't gotten the book, it's coming, because I had to go through all of these books and like 19 boxes in my garage of books still that were here in Kentucky. So they're coming. But I thought that was great, because he said he wrote that book years ago, the 21 Irrefutable Laws. And he said that then he decided he wanted to rewrite it. And he said he took it and read it while he was on vacation. And he said, this is the original, which is like one of his best books ever. And he said, this is terrible. Only my mom would enjoy reading this book, because I wrote it and I'm her son. So he said he revised the whole thing, but he said it gave him perspective, because he thought, okay, this was what worked then. And while they still work today, I want it to always be a work in progress. So to have a new perspective, you need to be content with that. Number 9, remember, it's not the destination, it's the journey. He said we move so fast that we lose perspective on just being on the journey. The journey is where we gain perspective and where we learn everything that we need to. And sometimes we're so focused on the destination that we forget about the journey. And so he said we need to remember that to gain a new perspective. And then the last one, number 10, for gaining new perspective. And I wrote these down actually in my journal this morning. I think these are amazing questions, and I would challenge you to write all of these down, these 3. So he said, at the end of every day, to gain a new perspective, ask yourself these questions. Number 1, what did I learn today? And he said that is what spoke to your heart and your head. So what was something that you actually learned today? Number 2, how did you grow today? What touched your heart and affected actually your actions? And then number 3, what will I do differently? And he said, unless you can tell me what you plan to do different, then you didn't learn anything that day. And then he said, because remember, there are no mistakes if you've learned something in the progress. So what did I learn today? How did I grow? And what will I do differently? And if you can ask yourself those 3 questions at the end of every day, then you are on your way for a new perspective. And I think I actually was glad that I re-listened to this and then shared this today, because I think sometimes we only think about perspective like at the new year or at the end of the year, or when we're needing, just like he said, when it's too late and something's broken and we're needing to make a different change. And I think it's very wise to be able to do this all the time, and to be able to hit it ahead of time, not just when something is broken. So I hope you guys liked those, but don't leave yet, because I want you to watch a quick 4 to 5 minute video. And if you already watched it, just hang on and watch it again. And if you haven't, please, Heather, actually, will you put this in do you have the link to this on the Eventbrite? Okay, can we share
I can
this?
get it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, if you have not registered, and you guys invite like someone that you love and you care about, this Friday, at 1 p.m. I'm interviewing Damon West. It is virtual. Many of you have asked. He's not in person because his schedule was like way booked. I mean, he's speaking to Nick Saban's team and, you know, Dabo Sweeney and everybody. However, he's going to be live with us on Zoom, and we have, I think, like 500 spots. And so invite someone that you love, get your teams, invite your family. If you have a great client, invite them. You do need to register, but I just want you guys to watch his story really fast, because when we talk about mindset, whoo, holy moly, it is a really good one.
My name is Damon West.
He was a rising star, a Friday night hero in his Texas town.
I grew up in a giant melting pot of a city. My parents raised us right. The two brothers, Brandon and Grayson, and I had a loving family, a loving home. And my mother was just a saintly Christian woman.
His dad, the longtime sports writer at the Port Arthur News.
In 1971, he was the first sports writer to put a black athlete on the front page. So my dad and Jimmy Johnson being best friends, that would go to a lot of the games and hold his headphone cord on the sideline.
That's Damon celebrating. He was the golden child, a 3-year starter at Thomas Jefferson High School. He had it all. The media was there when he signed his football scholarship to North Texas.
Damon West throws to Coleman, caught it behind the line at about the 38, and that will be it.
That's the last play I ever played in college, y'all. My shoulder got a 3rd-degree separation. I never played college football again. When football was gone, and I filled my life up with cocaine, ecstasy, pills. I went on to work in Congress. I worked for a guy running for president of the United States. I worked for one of the biggest Wall Street banks in the world to train to be a stockbroker. It was there at that job that I was first introduced to the drug that would almost take my life. I smoked that drug one time. I'm up for 4 days, instantly hooked. I went from working on Wall Street to living on the streets of Dallas, man, sleeping on park benches, sleeping in an alleyway.
To support his habit, Damon and his addict buddies started breaking into so many homes. Police dubbed them the Uptown Burglars.
Well, on July 30th, 2008, flashbang grenade goes off in my face. A bright white light, loud noise, blows me back on the couch. And when I came to, there's a SWAT team officer. His foot on my chest. He's got the barrel of an AR-15 stuck in my eye socket. Don't move! Don't move! His other partner comes in screaming, we got it. We got the Uptown Burglar. Bam, bam, bam. Damon Joseph West, you are hereby sentenced to 65 years in prison. Inmate West, number 1585689. I'll never forget that number, y'all. I remember hearing my mother gasp, and my dad can't talk. He's in stunned disbelief. So my mom did all the talking. She said, no gangs and no tattoos. She said, you come back as the man who raised, or don't you come back at all. There was one guy, this old black guy named Mr. Jackson. And Mr. Jackson, in his 60s, a seasoned convict. And Mr. Jackson said, I'm going to lace you up. I'm going to tell you how you're going to survive this. He said, first thing you need to know is prison is all about race. First couple of months, you're going to fight for your life. He said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you do have to fight all your fights. He said, the strongest man in prison always walks alone. He said, look, I want you to imagine prison like a pot of boiling water. He said, everything we put in boiling water is going to be changed by the heat and the pressure in there. He said, I'm going to put 3 things in that pot of boiling water and see how they respond. He said, if I throw a carrot in a pot of boiling water and boil a carrot, what happens? He said, that carrot went in hard. That atmosphere in prison turned that carrot soft. He said, if I put an egg in a pot of boiling water, what happens to the egg? He said, that egg had that hard outer shell, that soft liquid inside. He said, but prison changed that egg. Now that inside is hard. He said, West, if I take the smallest of these 3 things and throw that coffee bean in that pot of boiling water, now you've got to change the name of the water to coffee. He said the coffee bean was the only thing that didn't let the atmosphere change it. It changed the atmosphere. He said, that's the only way you're going to survive. I had to fight all the white gangs off. The Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Circle, White Knights, the Woods. Then they sent the Crips, the Bloods, the Mandingo Warriors, Gangster Disciples. I probably got in 36 fights while I was in prison. And I lost 75% of them, y'all. But I won by showing up. I'm walking back to the pod off the rec yard, getting ready to go take a shower. This little essay named Carlo pulls me aside. Says, Wes, you go shower today? Oh, boy, it's coming for you, man. This dude is coming to rape me. How are you going to respond? I do everything he tells me to like a T. He pops that door open, I see that knife come through, and I rear back and I screamed, I hit this dude with everything I had. This dude shot out of that shower. He's on the ground, man, he's dropped his knife. I throw his bag down, I start beating this dude. 2 of his gangs were fly up the stairs, man, he's the Mandingo Warrior. They said, man, if you lay another hand on that dude, we'll toss you up the run. I grab my bag, man, go on myself, close the door, slide up against the wall, start crying like a baby, man. That adrenaline is burning off. When I woke up, it was a new day. I never had to fight again the rest of the time I was there, y'all. I was able to free myself up, work on myself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, every day. I woke up every day and said, you know what? My mind, my body, and my soul is going to be exercised today somehow. I got in that chapel. Guess what I found in the chapel in prison? Other coffee beans. They were all hiding there, apparently. I got into recovery in prison, and I started getting the tools I needed to deal with my addiction. The secret to life is to serve others. On November 16th, 2015, parole lets me out, unheard of on a life sentence. I was going home, y'all. 7 years, 3 months, I walk out of prison. My parents are waiting out there in the parking lot. We go out there and we hug and we're crying. And I stop it short. I said, y'all, let's get in the car. Let's go before they change their minds. I got with a couple of guys back home, the assistant chief of the DA's office. I go around telling the coffee bean story, and it's caught on in college football programs all over the country, in corporations and schools, and bring this message, this warning, and a message of hope.
What he has done with his life, it's impressive. It really is. You can really see the rehabilitation in him.
This is what he wants to say.
Life is going to knock you down. Life's going to hit you with something. You're going to have to make a choice. How do you get back up and respond? I've got a call to action for you, and that call to action is to go out and be a coffee bean.
Isn't that so good? I mean, he is amazing. Damon has actually become a friend of mine. And so he's going to be talking to you guys. I just got my shirt in the mail about how to be a coffee bean on Friday. And I will say one thing really fast. It is so crazy because yes, while what he did was not good, he should have never have done drugs and broken into people's houses. He never physically hurt anybody. He never murdered anybody. I mean, nothing like that. So a life sentence is unheard of, but because he was who he was, they wanted to make an example out of him. And so he shared with me on the phone when we were talking about when we were picking dates, and I talked to him for like almost 2 hours on the phone, and it was just like so crazy. And he said, all I could think about was just hearing my parents back there. Like they did everything they could to raise me the right way. And now I got a life sentence. And he said, I really took seriously what my mom said, like either go in and do the right thing, no tattoos, no gangs, and then come home, or don't bother with us ever again. Like we're done. And so he did tell me that he went back to try to find Mr. Jackson, who told him about the coffee bean story. And unfortunately, he died 2 years ago in prison. He was still in prison. And so he hasn't got to he never got to go back and thank him. He had to hire a private investigator to find him actually inside of the system. And so he said that just gives him even more of just the heart to want to go and share his story. So it's a privilege that we'll have him on Friday, and I would love for you guys to be on there. Yes, I love what Josh said. The goal in life is to serve others. 100%. Yes. And if you could see Damon's schedule, he said to me on the phone, I said, are you ever afraid that you'll relapse? And he said, no. Because he said, if I get up every day and go serve others, he said, I know that I never will, because he said, I will never see a jail cell again. He said, the only time I'll ever see one is if I'm going in there to serve them, not to be one of them again. And so he said, I just have to keep that in my mindset at all the time. But somebody who has the most incredible mindset maybe I've ever met or talked to in my life is Damon. So save the date. You can register. It's this Friday at 1:00 and invite, we're having Adam's kids step out of school to watch then their friends. We got permission from their teacher that they could show it outside in their little break area or whatever, because I just think he's going to bring a very powerful message to you guys. So hope to see you Friday. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for coming back, and I'll see you guys next week. Some of you in Columbus, I'll see tomorrow.
Thanks.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.